All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. Come on in, you guys. It's Monday. Happy Monday. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you guys are feeling rested, rejuvenated, and ready to take on this week. Yes, we're here. Today's episode is actually sponsored, and this is really the first time we've done this, and it's amazing. So we have a company called Young Life CMOS, and the owner is Cliff Young. He's local businessman around here in Tulare, and he owns a CMOS company, and this is some kosher sea moss, y'all. I've tried it. It's good. He has different flavors. We're going to put the website in the description so you guys can check it out. I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. It's wild, crafted, quality sea moss. So make sure you guys check that out. He also carries soursop leaves, which you can drink as a tea, and it's amazing. I've drank it. I don't have any this morning, and I forgot, but he sells both of those, so you guys need to check them out. So today I'm super excited because we're continuing on with Women's Herstory, and I have a very special guest with me this morning, and I'm super excited because this person is so dear to my heart. And when I asked her if she would be a guest on my podcast, so she's so special to me. I was like, I don't want to share her with the world because when I'm telling you guys, when I'm in the worst mood ever, when I feel like my life is in shambles and I'm just in a really negative space, I call her, she picks up her phone, she talks to me, she reasons with me, she shows me and tells me just gives me a different perspective on things. And I love her for this because she is my person. And I feel like she's really my life mentor. And she's actually the owner. She's married to the CEO and founder of the company I work for. So she hired me. So I've been with her company for 12 years now. And she's the one that interviewed me, and we just developed this friendship over the past 12 years. And so anyways, guys, I'm super excited that you're here, Carrie. Yay.
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. I'm I love you, girl. You know, you and I have had some really good talks, and I'm ready to share you with the world. So I'm ready to share your knowledge, your wisdom, but go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and all that good stuff.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Tanika set the bar pretty high there, so no pressure. My name is Carrie Mora, but my 559 crew might know me or remember me as Carrie King. Class 2001, Tulare Union.
Mm-hmm. Woo, woo, Redskins. Or they're tribe now, I think.
Tribe, that's
Redskins
right.
back then.
That's right. Let's see. Well, you gave a pretty good background of when we met and our story. So since it's St. Patrick's Day weekend, I think I'll go that route. Because according to 23andMe, I am in large part Irish. So nice. I thought it would be appropriate for me to learn a little bit more about this day. And so a little gee whiz to get our podcast started.
Oh, nice. I like icebreakers.
All right,
give it to us.
St. Patrick, we think of the Irish, but he actually wasn't Irish. He was born in Rome and Britain. and he was kidnapped and enslaved in Ireland at the age of 16, which he later escaped. But he is known because when he returned later in life, he returned to Ireland. He is known for bringing Christianity to the country. Thus the name Saint Patrick. He is their patron saint in Ireland. And one of the legends, one of the most well-known legends of St. Patrick is that he illustrated the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, by way of the native Irish clover or the shamrock. So for those of you rocking the shamrock gear this weekend, that's where that came from. And also, last part of that I found interesting was most of the Irish are Roman Catholic, in large part Roman Catholic, and St. Patrick's Day falls over the Lent season. And if you're Roman Catholic, the Lent season prohibits you from eating meat. But the Irish have that prohibition lifted for a day in order to celebrate St. Patrick, and they're permitted to dance, drink, and feast on the traditional meal of Irish bacon and cabbage. So, listener out there, if you're a Roman Catholic and you celebrate Lent and you found yourself indulging in a little bit of corned beef and cabbage this weekend, according to the Irish, that's how it's done. So, nothing to feel guilty about.
Right.
Nice. So there's your little fun fact on.
I love that.
Little St. Patrick.
Well, thank you for sharing with us, Carrie. Because I had no idea any of that. That's very interesting, actually.
I thought so too.
Yeah. So, guys, today we're just keeping up with gaining control of our life. Really trying to get in control of how we do things, why we do things, and just the positive aspect of different perspectives. I brought Carrie on because she's always giving tips and tools. And I've stayed at her house whenever we have quarterly meetings for work up north in the Rockland area. I stay at her house on purpose. Her and Dan, her husband, are always welcoming me. And I go because I love to absorb how she does things. And one thing that sticks out to me is the organization in her house and how she runs her tribe. And I'm like, man, I know days can kind of get crazy, but she finds a way to regroup and get back on track. And so I want her to share a little bit of those tools and tips with you guys, like she's done with me, as well as commitments. She actually introduced the whole what are your commitments in your life type thing. And so I want her to also talk about that because it's super important, I feel like, and it can really help us. So today we're going to be discussing organization and commitments in life and how they can affect us in the long run. We all make commitments in life, whether it's to our family, friends, our career, or personal goals. But sometimes it can be difficult to keep up with them, especially when life gets in the way. And I feel like that's where organization with tips like planning, scheduling, even like utilizing a calendar, for instance, can really help us stay on track. So, Carrie, I want you, if you would be so kind, to give us dive into organizing your life, and how you do that. How do you start with or what do you feel like organizing and commitments? How can that really just I messed up on that one so I'm gonna have to but how can so organizing your life, essentially it's about finding a way to manage your time, right? So tell us how you
Yes.
do that.
Yeah. Well, when I was preparing for the podcast, I wrote down some words: organize, prioritize, categorize. And I noticed that all three of those words have a similar suffix, I-Z-E, eyes. So I thought, I wonder what that means. So I did a little research. And according to the Dictionary of Oxford Languages, the suffix eyes means to make or become or to treat in a special way. And I thought that just put a whole new perspective on those words for me, because chaos and disorganization happen very naturally. You don't have to do anything to have chaos and disorganization in your life. And if you live in a home with other people, maybe with kids, pets, you know that keeping a house clean and organized takes a good deal of effort and almost no effort to become chaotic and very quickly.
Right.
So the reason I want to share that is because sometimes I think we wonder, why aren't I more organized? You know, how do I prioritize? What does it mean to categorize things in my life? Well, they all require some level of action. Some level of doing something. If you are organized and you prioritize things, you are combating the chaos in your life. So how do we do that? How do we actively combat chaos? We live in a world full of technology and a plethora of apps and programs that will tout giving you the ability to organize. And I don't know about you, but I can get pretty overwhelmed when I look at all of the options available to me. So I would venture to guess that the majority of your listeners have a cell phone. And probably we all use our cell phones for things like texting and email and maybe even the lost art of the phone call occasionally. But your phone, most phones, come with native applications that people just don't utilize well. And if they did, it could contribute to their organization. So an example of some of the things I use probably almost daily, it's going to be my calendar, whether that's your Google Calendar or your iPhone native calendar, notes, reminders, alarms. If you are sitting with me for any amount of time, I guarantee you're going to see those notifications come through on my phone, reminding me to do something.
Right.
I lean on those things pretty heavy because our brains are amazing, but we can only handle so much. So I lean heavily on tools that allow me to remove that thought from my brain in that moment and organize it in such a way that it's going to show up back in my brain by way of my phone when I need it to, so that I can focus on other things in my life.
Right. And so how do you, like in the morning, what does it look like for you? I mean, you're a mom of 4 and you're a wife, you're a businesswoman. I mean, you have day-to-day tasks. So I heard you say your calendar, reminders. Do you prep what you need to do for the week on like a Sunday? Do you just take some time out to just organize your week, or do you do it the night before? How do you, I mean, you pick up kids from school, I've seen you packing lunches. I've seen you do the dang thing. Like, how do you do that? Do you start on Sunday night or for the week?
Good question. There's a couple of tiers when it comes to that. So a lot of the things that impact my life and the mothering aspect specifically are my kids' schedules. And much of their schedule is dictated by their school calendar. And school calendars generally speaking, are available pretty far in advance, usually around a year for the major stuff. So at the high level, I actually take that calendar at the beginning of the school year and I input all of that data into my calendar for the entire year. And then I keep that calendar up on my wall or whatever. And I know things are subject to change, but at least I have a starting point.
Right.
If I can schedule it out far, I do.
Right.
As far as the daily and the weekly tasks go, I will say weekly, usually on a Sunday, just whenever I'm going to be starting the week to come. I like to look over my whole week and understand what I have on my calendar, what should be on my calendar that isn't, maybe what's changed and I need to adjust. And I plan for that. And then I usually review it again daily in the morning. When I wake up, I look at my calendar so that I have a sense for what my day holds for me, and I can act accordingly.
So doctor's appointments, school, things for the kids' school, your own tasks. I mean, do you schedule like self-care on your calendar? I'm just curious. Like, do you put on your calendar self-care or rest and rejuvenate on your calendar? What goes on your calendar? I'm honestly just curious.
Everything goes on my calendar. Absolutely everything. Minus bathroom breaks, probably.
Yeah.
It's not on my calendar.
Right.
So what's on my calendar? We talk about the mental load. That's a big topic of discussion in our culture right now. And sometimes the hardship of carrying that mental load. And while, yes, I'm an advocate for sharing that mental load with your partner, giving responsibility of that mental load to your children as it's age appropriate, the fact of the matter is we all carry a mental load. So rather than, my goal is not to get rid of my mental load. My goal is to organize it so that I can function well and effectively in my day. But a great way to set yourself up for a shared responsibility is the use of shared calendars. So if you have a partner, a spouse, roommate, you can share a calendar with that person and put things on another's calendars. Or assign responsibility of certain things so that you are not 100% carrying that load.
Right.
My kids are all teenagers, so they've all got their own email addresses. So when it comes to things like doctor's appointments, they're at that age where I'm still scheduling those things, but they need to know about them. And so we put those things on a shared calendar so that they have visibility on that when they're scheduling their own lives. I share them with my partner, my husband, so that he has transparency on what my day looks like. So he's saying, "Hey, you want to go to lunch today?" He knows whether I can go to lunch that day or not because it's on my calendar.
Wow, I love that. That is just another way of communication, and that's a whole nother topic. But it definitely helps. I know it does.
Yeah.
So
building routines too around like, you mentioned the daily things like the making of lunches, things that you do on the daily, make the bed, check the mail. Those things become subconscious after a time.
Right.
You just do them. But when you are establishing a routine, I found myself struggling to remember when I needed to do those things. And I'll give you an example of something recent. I have a whole repertoire of supplements that I take. And I was forgetting, like, I need to take it at this time every day. And which ones do I take? So I sat down and I created an alarm schedule on my phone. And I labeled all my alarms with the medications. And I set them on the specific days and times. And now I don't have to think about it. The only thing I have to think about is making sure I have them on me. So in the morning, I'm packing my kids' lunches. I'm also packing my supplements. And then my phone does the rest.
Right. So utilizing the technology that we're given in today's world is definitely helpful. And that's so funny that you say that, because remembering things like taking our vitamins and supplements, we had an interview or a podcast a couple of weeks ago with actually the sponsor of this episode. And he was talking about the importance of his calendar as well. I mean, he puts everything, family time, he blocks that off on his calendar, so that way he doesn't schedule business appointments. And he said that he had read a book. I can't remember the book right now, but it talks about how our minds are not created to be like a memory chip. So it's important for us to delegate and put these things that need to get done on a calendar, utilize it, or put it somewhere so it's out of your mind and you can have room to create and to do the things that our brain is made to do. And in short form. But it was so intriguing because I'm like, that's so true. Like, we can't possibly remember or use our brains to fill up the space, to fill it up with things that we just need to do on a day-to-day basis. I don't think that that's what our mind is made for. So utilizing things like a calendar, reminders, tasks, it's so helpful. And I think it's actually healthy when you really think about it.
Definitely. And on the other side of that same technology coin, we can become inundated with all of these notifications that we're getting, which can be counterproductive to being prioritized and organized. I found myself drowning in email. As a mom, I am in charge of ordering most of what we need in our household. Majority of that's done online. And when you order something online, you put your data in, and now you're on their email list. Right. And because I have serious retail, right? I have some serious retail FOMO. So the whole idea of unsubscribing, I don't like it. I mean, I don't want to miss anything, but also I'm drowning in email. And so I came across this app. I think I maybe saw it on Instagram or something, but it's called Unroll Me. And it's fabulous because I can sync my email to it, and I can categorize all of my emails into 3 categories. And it is keep, as in let this come to my inbox, unsubscribe because I don't need to see it ever, or roll it up. And I was like, that's interesting. What does that mean? Rolling it up, just this app will, as the emails come in, it does not deliver it to my inbox. It holds them kind of like a holding tank. And then I will get one email. I choose to get them in the mornings because that's when I do my scheduling, that says, here's your roll up for the day. And it has all those emails that I said, I don't really want to see them when they come in, but I want to see them eventually. And I can do a quick scan over those. And that's it. Once a day, I'm looking at those emails now, instead of all day long or ignoring them for a week because I feel so overwhelmed by it. Now I've got 5,000 emails and I've got to sift through them. So that's one example of a way that you can utilize technology to help reduce your notifications.
That's a good tip. I like that. And when it comes to organizing, let's talk about decluttering your space. How do you... I just know when I go home, if my house isn't organized or if things are not set in place. I mean, I learned this a long time ago with work when we started the whole 5S thing. You remember that? And I actually brought that into my house, set things in order, standardize, shine, set in place. So can you give us some tips and tools on how you declutter your space around you?
Yeah. I take time to reflect on what's really important to me, what needs to be done on the daily in order for me to function effectively, to be able to sit down and be present with my family at the end of the day. And I will identify what those tasks are. Dishes, for example. That's just a non-negotiable. That's something that has to be done every day. Making beds, putting laundry in the baskets. You can't sweat the small stuff either, because you can get really caught up in, and I'm guilty of this, very guilty of not being able to sit down and be present with my family because I see all these things around me that need work. But the truth is, when you live in a house with people, something always needs work. Right. And so I think there's a balance there of, identifying what's most important to you, being communicating that well with your family and understanding what's important to them too, executing those goals and letting the rest go.
I like that. I really do. That's a really good reminder to the balance that we should have, even in our workspace. It's hard for me to focus on my work if I have papers everywhere, sticky notes of reminders that I haven't put in my calendar or my task list. So, but when it comes to home life and family life, if there's a few dishes in the sink, I'm not going to sweat that. If laundry hasn't gotten done, I won't sweat it. I'll just put it on my calendar to do it on Sunday. And I will enjoy the moment and the present moment that I'm in with my kids and my husband. But definitely, I feel like we can all benefit with keeping our space clutter. I don't like clutter. I'm not even going to lie. Like, my husband, he could be a hoarder if we allow him. And I'm not that type of person. So
I think my husband would say the same thing about me. We kind of, he's minimalist, as you well know, and I like to call myself a maximalist. 4 kids, we like to entertain, we have a business. I like to be ready for anything at any moments in this. But I think one of the keys for me to keeping that all in order is I have sort of a mantra of not being idle. Like, I'm not idle. You don't ever be idle. And when I say don't be idle, I don't mean don't rest. What I mean is be intentional with every moment of your time, including your time that you're going to take to rest. It's tempting when you're tired and you're busy to just sit on the couch and not do that thing that you know you need to do. Right. But it's not contributing to a better evening for me when I do that. Right. But yeah, I'm not idle. I'm never idle. If you see me, I'm moving, I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, I'm organizing, I'm scheduling, or I'm intentionally taking time off. Right. Which is also so important. So make sure you guys are getting rest and enjoying your Sabbath day. Definitely. So with organization in your space and planning and calendaring also comes your commitments, right? And oftentimes commitments are the foundation of our relationships and the things that we do in life. They're a promise we make to ourselves and to others. But what happens when we can't fulfill those promises? And can you talk to us about commitments? Because you're the first person I heard this from when it comes to, I remember you telling me, write down your commitments, stick to them. I mean, you separated the types of commitments. So can you talk to us about that? Yeah. Understanding your commitments in life will help you prioritize your choices when it comes to your time. And so I remember talking to you about this, but I would encourage everyone to have the top 5 commitments in life as a total. So that can include personally, it can include professionally, spiritually, whatever those goals are. Mine, for example, my top 5 commitments are my faith, my family and relationships, service and generosity, personal growth, and legacy. So that is the foundation of the choices I make in filling my time. Mm-hmm. If what I'm doing is not contributing to one of those values in my life, should I be doing it? A lot of times we aren't so great at setting boundaries. We want to be helpful and we say yes to everything, but there's value in sitting down and identifying what's important to me, what fills my cup, what is helpful for my family, and making sure that your commitments stick to those values. How do you do that? Like, how do you know if that's happening? Well, a great way to start is being intentional about, or reflecting, I guess I could say, on your day. Where did my time go? Tangibly, what did I do today? And how does that fit with my goals? What can I shift? And how can I do that better? These aren't things you just figure out and then you never have to do it again. This is a daily practice. And we don't always get it right, but that's the approach I like to take.
Yeah. So when someone is maybe taking on too much, or they just have a lot going on, and it's not really positive things that are going on. I mean, take people that go to work all day long. Maybe they hear other people's problems all day long and they're taking that in. And what would you tell someone that constantly hears or counsels someone, takes on someone else's problems? How would you like help them kind of think differently or use their commitments to just help them feel better in general? Because I know a lot of people that do that for work, they take on other people's problems, or they're listening to everybody's problems, and then they're just like, information overload. It puts them in like a really bad place. So would you tell them to go back to the drawing board, stick to your commitments? What would you tell someone that struggles from that?
Gotcha. Well, there's I think there's 2 pieces to that question. So it's how do those interactions affect you and your commitments, and how can you help that person if it's appropriate for you to do so? Empathy is such a gift that you especially have, Danica. I know that if somebody needs help, you're there. But that takes a toll sometimes. And so the best advice I could give for somebody in that position is to set healthy boundaries with people in their lives, and understand that you can't fix their problems. The best you can do is give them tools to help them work on it. It's like give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach him how to fish, feed him for a lifetime. Kind of like that. I think there's always room to share principles with people who are struggling. It may not be appropriate for me to sit and counsel you every day at work, but I think it's always appropriate to provide resources to those we care about. So that's what I would recommend.
And I think you did exactly that when I came to you, and I felt like my life was in shambles, and I felt like I was struggling in several different ways, and you being like my mentor, you recommended books. One of them was Boundaries. And really, we had gotten on this whole conversation about commitments and how to just, stick to them. And of course, have empathy, like you said. But when it comes to, you and yourself, you can't fix everyone, like you said. But I really want to circle back around on just the commitment part. I know I kind of threw you for a loop there, but that was just one of the ways that I feel like we had started this conversation on commitments. When I came to you, I was like, I just feel like I'm so overwhelmed with things. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm trying to help a lot of people. I'm trying to be that person for everyone. And I feel like I'm keeping it all. So this is how we got started on this conversation. So I think that it's important for us to recognize when we're taking on too much, or when we need to reevaluate our priorities. Sometimes it's okay to say no to something or to ask for help, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you say no? When somebody asks you to do something? I'm sure it's not hard, but
on the contrary, I am a recovering yesaholic.
Okay. Okay. So learning to say no, that's important, right?
It's important. And I went a large part of my formidable years and 20s not really understanding the concept of boundaries or healthy conflict, or how there's value in saying no to things. No just has this negative connotation, like if I can help, then I'm going to help, right? But that wasn't healthy for me. So I do think that there's value in setting those boundaries, and you don't need to be rigid and you don't need to be harsh. It's very possible to approach these situations with grace and say, hey, I see that you're struggling and I care about you and I want to help you. I can't commit to these 2-hour conversations every day, though. I can commit, however, to giving you some resources. And that's, effectively I'm saying no, right?
Right.
Like, no, I'm going to do this with you, but I'm saying that I care about you and I want you to improve. But I'm not the only way that you're going to get better.
Can we tell that to our spouse?
What's that?
Can we tell that to our spouse? Like, I just can't do it. I'm tired. I need boundaries. Family, right? We're going to edit that out. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have to. Oh, man. So, but that's really good, Carrie. Thank you for that. Because it really is. I mean, we want to help a lot of people, and, even with ourselves, we have to sometimes tell ourselves no, no, I'm not going to take on another project. No, I'm not going to add another 5 things that I don't have to do, but maybe want to do. I think it's just as important.
I don't know about you, but I have this propensity that when I'm asked in that moment, I want to say yes. Like I want the word yes to come out of my mouth. And I've had to really train myself to say things like, that is such a great idea, or what a fun opportunity. Can I have some time to think about it and circle back to you?
Yeah.
Sometimes I already know my answer is going to be no, but sometimes I truly don't know, when I need to evaluate, is this going to enrich my life? What value is it going to bring? Is it going to cause something else in my life to suffer? Be very thoughtful and intentional with your time. You have a finite amount of time. So what you do with that time matters. Right.
And isn't it important to remember that commitments are not set in stone? They can change,
Absolutely.
Right?
Definitely. It's great to, maybe at minimum annually, I would say sit down with yourself and review your commitments. It can be more than annually, but at least annually, and say, is this still where I'm at? Are these still my commitments? Did this change? Did something in my life shift? And yes, they will change over your
Right.
lifetime. Absolutely.
Nice. I love that. So basically, to sum it up, commitments are an important part of our life, but they require honesty, discipline, and flexibility, basically. But by staying committed to our goals and responsibilities, we can achieve great things and build strong relationships with ourselves and with other people.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this talk, Carrie. I'm so excited and happy that you came on and agreed to come on to talk about just organization and give us some tips and tools on how you do that. Because seriously, like just by me watching you and navigate through your day to day, it really has helped me. So I just want to personally thank you for sharing your life with me and sharing all your tips and tools and teaching me about commitments and really just taking it serious and learning how to say no and just learning how to reflect and and just stick to my commitments. So I appreciate
Well, it's
you.
my pleasure to do that with you in your life. And I hope that some of your listeners find it beneficial and put into practice some of these tips.
Before we go, do you have any books that you recommend off top of your head that you've read?
Definitely.
That you would recommend?
Yeah. On this topic that we're talking about, well, first of all, I think it's important that every person has a set of standards that everything else in their life is measured against. And for me, that standard is God's word. Hold the Bible.
Amen.
So if you don't have a Bible and you want one, let me know. I'll get you one. But that would be my one book recommendation.
Same here.
The next one, though, we already touched on it, and it was boundaries. And that book is written by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. And it's actually, there's a whole series of them. You can get the first release that's just called Boundaries. But if you're looking to dive into more specific situations, they have boundaries in dating and marriage, boundaries with kids and teens, boundaries in leadership. But really, really good in communicating what are boundaries, why are they valuable, how do you set them, how do you uphold them. Super great there. And then my third book, which is not really a reading book, it's more of a reference tool. It's called Working Together by Linda Behrens and Olaf Isaacson, I think is how you say his name. I'm sure many of your listeners have heard of the personality indicators like Myers-Briggs testing, for example. And then you get these letters that identify your personality category. Well, this book, Working Together, and we call it the green book in my family, and you probably guessed the color's green. But this book goes into a little bit more detail for each of those personality categories. And it's super helpful in understanding how to do relational work with people. Because I think that as humans, we default to trying to make everybody think like us or see it from our perspective. And that's just not the reality. You know, we live in a world of great diversity. And learning how to work with different personalities creates something beautiful. It's like music, you know, it makes me think of a piano. Every key is different, puts out a different sound, but when you compose all of those keys into a specific way, it makes this harmony, it makes music, and it's beautiful. And it's something that you cannot make without a different sound being put with another different sound. And so I kind of see that with people too. You know, we need the diversity. And I think we should make more of an effort in understanding others as opposed to forcing others to understand us. So our
I like that.
family, we take the test. I have little Post-it notes with their names, and it's on their page. So
Wow.
when I'm struggling with
Mm-hmm.
like communicating with this person or motivating someone, it's a good reminder for me to go back and read those descriptions of, why these might be hard or different
Mm-hmm.
because of my personality and their personality.
Wow.
It's
Well,
just
there it
good
is.
insight.
You could do the work. If we do the work, we could be successful having at least a understanding, like you said, understanding people more than trying to make them understand you.
Right.
So I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Miss Carrie Mora. I love you dearly. Thanks for hopping on with me today. And
Absolutely.
we will talk soon.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Tanika.
guys, for tuning in this morning. Sending much love. Hope you guys have a great week and peace.